What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So this is another requested video for one of my subscribers, and they asked me, what did I think would have happened if Alonzo Mourning never got sick? And of course, we're talking about the kidney ailment. All right. Those of you all who are too young to remember, Alonzo Mourning was one of the best big men in the NBA in the 1990s. Right, one of the best. A little bit undersized. Listed at 6'10", he was more like 6'9". Um, in the mid to late 90s, he bulked up to about 260 something. All right, at center. I think it was around 260, maybe 270. And he was a force, man. I would say on an average season, he would get you. Now remember, this is the 1990s, so the pace was slower. Teams was shit, only averaging 90 points a game. Some games, the final score would be 74, 72. So scoring was a lot lower. Trust me, in today's pace, he would average more, even though I think he would probably be a little bit thinner for the pace. But, a typical season back then, 20 points per game, about 10 rebounds. The thing I remember the most about Alonzo Mourning is the block shots. I mean, one of the most prolific shot blockers, considering his size, that I've ever seen. The thing I remember about Alonzo Mourning is when someone would go up and challenge him. Don't get me wrong, he got dunked on. All great shot blockers get dunked on, but more often than not, they're successful in their contest of the shot. And all I remember is when Alonzo Mourning used to go up for a block, all I used to see is this big ass, long, fucking huge arm with this big ass hand with the wristband on that motherfucker. The hand like it was it belonged to a fucking bear, and it would block the fuck out of that shot. I mean, the motherfucking shot it'd be like a catapult, and the fucking ball would go into the fucking cheap stands and shit. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I'm talking about. When he blocked the shot, it was like fucking epic. But then after the 2000 Olympics, I think it was in Sydney, he started getting sick, and he was diagnosed with a kidney disorder. And he missed, I think, all but like a few games of the next season, 2001. He played, I think, 2001, 2002, but he clearly was not himself. He was probably averaging like 13, 14 points a game, maybe 7 rebounds. He wasn't himself. He lost a lot of weight, so he didn't quite have it. He was more mobile, I guess, in theory, but he didn't have the same energy, and he didn't have the same. He wasn't the same force down low. And then I think the next year he missed entirely because he had to have surgery. He had to have surgery, actually life-saving surgery, to get another kidney. And then I remember him playing for. I'm forgetting some detail, but I remember him playing with the Nets, but then not being happy with his role there, then being traded to Toronto, but I don't think he ever played for them. And then he finished his career off with the Miami Heat as a backup to Shaq. But at times, especially I remember during that championship run, they would be on the court together with Mourning playing power forward. All right. Now, and ultimately he won a championship, but in this he was a limited player by then. A limited player. I don't know his averages on top of my head, but I'll just say this: I did check this out before I did the video. He was a 7-time All-Star, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner. He led the league in block shots twice. One of the most prolific defensive centers this game has ever seen. He is top 75. But what would he have been if he was blessed with, say, LeBron James' health. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James has been one of the healthiest players uh, the league has ever seen. What would he have been if he was blessed with LeBron James' health? Now, Mourning didn't start getting sick until he was about 30, which is around the peak of his career. So in theory, you could say Mourning probably would have had about what 2, 3 more years playing at a high level than maybe a slow drop off back then. Um, I do feel like this. He probably would have scored at least, you got to consider the era, 3,000 more points. He would have scored at least 3,000 more points. Probably would have grabbed mm, maybe 2,000 more rebounds and blocked at least 1,000 more shots. At least 1,000 or 800 to 1,000 more shots had he been healthy, in my opinion. Um, we would have seen more of him being dominant. I would assume in the early 2000s, he would have had some seasons where, he was averaging 20, 22, maybe 11, maybe 2.5 to 3 blocks per contest. But yeah, I most definitely think he'd be in higher regard. And those of us who watched him play know how gritty he was anyway. We know the circumstances. It's just that younger people are just going to look at the numbers and just make a determination that this guy wasn't all that good. Yeah, he was. Yes, he was. Um, Now there has been some speculation. I don't know how true this is, but there's been some speculation that Alonzo Mourning may have developed that kidney disorder because of taking something illegal. Now I don't know about that. That could just be some weird, wild speculation that has no truth to it whatsoever. Um, but in reality, I'll just say this: like I said, in addition to the points and extra rebounds, and extra block shots, I think he probably would have had 2 or 3 more All Star appearances, um, a couple more All Defensive First Team appearances, maybe an additional 1 or 2 All Defensive Second Team appearances, and I think he would be, like I said, top 50, maybe sort of like in that top 40 to 45 range if he had been blessed with more health, because he did come back and contribute. He did come back and contribute, and um, in a big way. Now that I think about it, he may have actually scored more than 3,000 points because he missed an entire season, and then he missed. I think I might be a little bit too conservative with that because he missed an entire season, then missed all but another season. So even if you take into a decline period, let me revise this a little bit. Maybe it's more around 4,000 more points, a little over 4,000 more points, maybe more around 3,000 rebounds, and maybe 1,000 to 1,500 blocks. Now that I think about it, which would put him, and I'm looking at it right now, it would put him at over 18,000 points. It would put him at 11,000 plus career rebounds, and it would put him at well over 3,000 career blocks. Somewhere approaching Elijah Wan's total. So yeah, I think he'd be held in a lot higher regard, even more than what he is, if he had stayed like really healthy, like missing only a handful of games, a couple of seasons, some minor injuries, uh, not anything to the point where it's a life threatening situation where you need to have surgery and missing substantial amounts of time. But anyway, Tell what you guys think.